Have you ever noticed that some people seem to command respect the moment they enter a room, while others work twice as hard and remain invisible? Most people believe power comes from intelligence, talent, or even luck. But according to psychology, that's only part of the story. The uncomfortable truth is that many of the forces shaping success, influence, and authority operate beneath the surface, hidden inside human behavior itself. And the people who understand those forces often rise faster than those who don't. Here's the paradox. The world constantly tells people to be completely open, endlessly agreeable, and emotionally expressive. Yet history repeatedly shows that those who master strategic silence, emotional detachment, and psychological power often gain a tremendous advantage. While others react emotionally, they observe. While others seek validation, they create value. While others focus on appearances, they study motives. This isn't about manipulation for the sake of manipulation. It's about understanding reality as it truly is. Centuries ago, Machiavelli challenged the comforting illusions that most people prefer to believe. Instead of describing how people should behave, he focused on how they actually behave. That perspective became the foundation for what many would later recognize as Machiavellian psychology. Combined with modern insights from psychology, it reveals a powerful framework for understanding influence, conflict, status, trust, and human decision-making. In this video, you will discover 9 ruthless laws that expose the hidden mechanics of dark intelligence. You'll learn why silence can be more powerful than speech, why emotions often sabotage judgment, why influence begins with observation, and why true strength comes from mastering yourself before attempting to influence others. Some of these ideas may challenge what you've always believed. Others may explain experiences you've had your entire life, but never fully understood. By the end, you'll begin seeing people, power, and even yourself through a completely different lens. And once these patterns become visible, it's almost impossible to unsee them. Most people grow up believing that intelligence automatically leads to success. They imagine that the smartest person in the room will naturally earn respect, opportunities, and influence. But reality has a funny way of challenging that belief. Everyone has met highly intelligent people who remain ignored, while others, far less knowledgeable, seem to attract authority effortlessly. That's where psychology begins to reveal a deeper truth. Intelligence alone is valuable, but understanding human behavior is often what transforms knowledge into real-world power. This is one of the first lessons hidden beneath the surface of Machiavelli's observations about human nature. A person may spend years studying books, collecting degrees, and mastering technical skills, yet still find themselves overlooked in conversations, relationships, and professional environments. Why? Because people rarely respond only to facts. They respond to emotions, perceptions, status signals, and social dynamics. Dark intelligence is not about deception for its own sake. It is about understanding the invisible forces that influence decisions. The individual who recognizes these forces begins to see patterns that others miss. Suddenly, situations that once seemed unfair start making sense. And with that awareness comes a different way of navigating the world. Machiavelli understood something that many idealists struggle to accept. People often describe the world as it should be, instead of seeing it as it truly is. That difference changes everything. A person who operates only through idealism may constantly feel disappointed when others act selfishly, competitively, or strategically. Meanwhile, someone who understands Machiavellian psychology is rarely surprised by human behavior. They expect contradictions. They understand hidden motives. They recognize that people often protect their interests before defending their principles. This perspective does not make someone cynical. It makes them prepared. Think about a workplace where 2 employees possess equal talent. One quietly delivers excellent work, but assumes recognition will come automatically. The other understands social dynamics, builds relationships, communicates strategically, and positions their contributions effectively. In many cases, the second person advances faster. That doesn't happen because they are smarter. It happens because they understand psychological power. The lesson isn't that competence doesn't matter. It absolutely does. The lesson is that competence without awareness of human nature often leaves potential trapped beneath the surface. Many people unknowingly adopt what could be called a victim mindset. They assume life happens to them rather than around them. When something goes wrong, they blame luck, circumstances, or other people. Yet the moment someone begins studying psychology and observing patterns objectively, a shift occurs. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" they start asking, "What dynamic am I missing?" That simple question can completely change the trajectory of a person's life. Hidden power structures become visible, and opportunities start appearing where frustration once lived. The fascinating part is that awareness alone already changes behavior. Once a person starts noticing motives, incentives, and social patterns, they naturally become less reactive and more strategic. They stop rushing to prove themselves. They become more observant. They realize that information often reveals itself when others feel comfortable speaking freely. And that realization opens the door to one of the most underestimated forms of power ever discussed by Machiavelli: knowing exactly when not to speak at all. Most people think influence comes from speaking more, explaining more, and constantly proving their value. Yet some of the most powerful individuals in history built their presence through the exact opposite approach. They understood the hidden strength of strategic silence. When a person speaks less, every word carries greater weight. Others begin paying closer attention because information becomes scarce. It's similar to gold. Its value comes partly from its rarity. In psychology, scarcity often creates importance, and silence can become one of the strongest forms of psychological power. A wise observer quickly notices something interesting about human behavior. Most people reveal far more than they intend to. Give someone enough time, a comfortable environment, and a patient listener, and they'll often tell you their fears, frustrations, ambitions, and insecurities without realizing it. This is why strategic silence is not passive. It is active observation. While others rush to fill every moment with words, the strategic individual gathers information. As Machiavelli understood, knowledge acquired through observation is often more valuable than knowledge acquired through confrontation. Imagine two people entering a negotiation. One immediately starts talking about their plans, concerns, expectations, and personal opinions. The other asks questions and listens carefully. By the end of the conversation, the first person has revealed nearly everything, while the second has revealed almost nothing. Who possesses the stronger position? In most cases, it's the listener. Dark intelligence teaches that information is leverage. The more someone understands another person's motivations, the easier it becomes to anticipate behavior and make intelligent decisions. Meanwhile, excessive self-disclosure often weakens strategic advantage. One of the biggest traps people fall into is the desire for validation. They want others to understand them, approve of them, and acknowledge their worth. As a result, they overshare. They explain every decision, justify every action, and defend themselves even when no defense is necessary. Machiavellian psychology suggests a different approach. Not every thought deserves an audience. Not every plan requires an announcement. Sometimes, the strongest move is allowing others to remain uncertain. Uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity naturally attracts attention. There is also a psychological effect that surprises many people. The less predictable someone becomes, the harder they are to manipulate. When every opinion, reaction, and future move is publicly available, others can easily build strategies around that predictability. However, when a person develops emotional detachment and becomes comfortable keeping certain thoughts private, they create a layer of mystery. People start making assumptions, filling gaps with their imagination, and projecting their own expectations. Ironically, silence often speaks louder than explanations ever could. This doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or antisocial. It means learning the difference between speaking to connect and speaking to seek approval. The strategic individual understands that listening reveals character, motives, and intentions in ways words never can. Over time, they begin noticing patterns hidden beneath conversations. They hear what is said, but more importantly, they notice what remains unsaid. And once someone learns to master silence, a new challenge emerges, controlling not only their words, but also their emotions when pressure begins to rise. Before we move on, think about this. If understanding hidden power dynamics and mastering strategic silence already changes the way you see people, imagine what happens when you learn the psychological signals that make others instantly respect, trust, and respond to you. That's exactly why I created the Silent Influence Code. Inside, you'll discover the subtle principles inspired by timeless Machiavellian wisdom and modern psychology that shape how people perceive your value, presence, and authority. If you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or ignored despite your potential, this was written for you. Click the link in the pinned comment and get access before we continue. What you're about to learn next will make even more sense once you understand these hidden signals. One of the hardest lessons a person can learn is that emotions are excellent servants but terrible leaders. Most individuals make decisions while angry, afraid, excited, offended, or desperate, and then spend weeks dealing with the consequences. The strategic thinker approaches situations differently. Instead of asking, "How do I feel about this?" they first ask, "What is actually happening here?" That subtle shift is at the heart of psychology and separates impulsive reactions from intelligent action. Machiavelli repeatedly emphasized that successful people learn to see reality clearly, even when their emotions try to distort it. This idea connects closely to what could be called the law of strategic amorality. It does not mean abandoning ethics or becoming cool. It means learning to analyze situations objectively before judging them emotionally. Imagine a person receiving criticism from a colleague. Most people instantly become defensive because their ego feels threatened. The strategic observer pauses. They examine the situation like a chess player studying the board. Is the criticism useful? Is it manipulation? Is it competition disguised as advice? Dark intelligence begins with understanding the situation before reacting to it. Many conflicts become far less complicated when emotions are temporarily set aside. A person practicing emotional detachment does not ignore their feelings. They simply refuse to let those feelings make decisions for them. Think about a heated argument. One person raises their voice, becomes emotional, and loses control. The other remains calm, asks questions, and observes carefully. Which person gains more information? Which person maintains more psychological power? In most situations, the calm individual holds the advantage because they can still think clearly while everyone else is reacting. Another principle often misunderstood in Machiavellian psychology is the law of controlled vulnerability. Most people believe they must appear either completely strong or completely open. Yet reality is far more nuanced. Strategic individuals understand that carefully revealing small weaknesses can build trust. For example, a leader who occasionally admits a mistake often appears more authentic than one who pretends to be flawless. This calculated honesty lowers defenses and creates connection. Ironically, showing selective vulnerability can make a person appear stronger, not weaker. A mentor once shared a simple observation that perfectly illustrates this principle. He noticed that people trusted him more after he spoke about challenges he had overcome rather than achievements he had accumulated. The reason was simple. Struggle feels human. Success can create distance, but controlled vulnerability creates relatability. Of course, strategic silence still matters. Revealing everything is not vulnerability. It is exposure. The goal is to share enough to build trust while preserving the boundaries that protect influence and personal stability. As a person develops emotional control, they begin noticing something fascinating. Human behavior becomes easier to predict. Reactions become easier to understand. Motives become easier to identify. They stop viewing interactions as random events and start seeing recurring patterns beneath the surface. And once someone learns to read those patterns, they discover that influence rarely comes from talking about themselves. It comes from understanding the people standing in front of them. Most people try to gain influence by drawing attention to themselves. They talk about their achievements, share their opinions constantly, and work hard to appear impressive. Yet the most influential individuals often take a completely different path. Instead of focusing on being understood, they focus on understanding others. This is where psychology reveals one of its most powerful secrets. People naturally trust those who make them feel seen, heard, and understood. Influence begins not with self-promotion, but with observation. That simple truth sits at the heart of both Machiavelli's insights and modern social dynamics. One of the most effective tools for building connection is what can be called the law of the mirror. Human beings naturally feel comfortable around people who resemble them in some way. This does not mean copying someone mechanically or acting fake. It means subtly matching energy, communication style, and emotional tone. If someone speaks calmly, responding with calmness creates harmony. If someone is enthusiastic, meeting them with appropriate enthusiasm builds rapport. Machiavellian psychology recognizes that people are often attracted to reflections of themselves without even realizing it. Think about a conversation between two strangers. One person speaks quickly and passionately, while the other responds with cold, detached answers. The interaction feels awkward. Now imagine the second person adjusts slightly, matching the rhythm and emotional intensity of the conversation. Suddenly, the exchange feels natural. Dark intelligence is not about controlling people like puppets. It is about understanding how human beings naturally connect. The strategic observer notices these subtle dynamics and uses them to create trust, cooperation, and influence without force. The deeper someone studies psychology, the more they realize that every action is driven by motives. Some people seek recognition, others seek security. Some crave freedom, while others desire status. The mistake many individuals make is assuming everyone thinks the same way they do. Strategic thinkers avoid this trap. Instead, they become students of human motivation. They pay attention to patterns, desires, fears, and aspirations. Understanding what moves a person internally often provides more influence than any persuasive argument ever could. This is why observation remains one of the most underrated forms of psychological power. While others are busy speaking, impressing, and competing for attention, the observer quietly gathers valuable information. They notice body language, emotional reactions, inconsistencies, and recurring behaviors. A person may claim confidence while displaying signs of insecurity. Another may talk about loyalty while repeatedly acting in self-interest. Over time, these observations create a much clearer picture than words alone. Actions reveal what people truly value. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of influence is that it often becomes stronger when it is less visible. The individual who understands emotions, mirrors appropriately, and studies motivations rarely needs to dominate conversations. Their presence alone begins shaping interactions. People naturally lower their defenses around them and reveal more than intended. Yet, as influence grows, another challenge appears. Understanding others is valuable, but maintaining independence from their approval, reactions, and outcomes is where true strategic freedom begins. One of the greatest sources of weakness in human behavior is desperation. The moment a person feels they must have a specific outcome, they often surrender their leverage without realizing it. They become anxious, predictable, and easier to influence. This is why the law of outcome independence is so powerful. A strategic individual works hard, plans carefully, and pursues goals with determination, but they refuse to attach their identity to a single result. Psychology repeatedly shows that people perform better when they are committed to the process rather than obsessed with the outcome. Ironically, letting go of desperation often increases the chances of success. Consider someone entering a job interview, a negotiation, or even a romantic interaction. If they secretly believe, "I absolutely need this to work," their behavior changes. Their confidence weakens. Their decisions become reactive. Others can often sense that pressure. On the other hand, a person practicing emotional detachment approaches the same situation differently. They want success, but they know their value does not depend on a single opportunity. This mindset creates calmness, flexibility, and a surprising amount of psychological power. People are naturally drawn to those who appear secure within themselves. Another uncomfortable truth, recognized by Machiavelli, is that conflict cannot always be avoided. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to please everyone around them. Unfortunately, that strategy rarely works. The law of the useful enemy suggests something counterintuitive. Sometimes, opposition can strengthen a person's position. A competitor, critic, or rival often reveals weaknesses that friends ignore. They expose blind spots, challenge assumptions, and force growth. While most people fear enemies, Machiavellian psychology teaches that a wise person learns from them instead of being consumed by resentment. Think about some of the strongest individuals in history. Very few reached positions of influence without encountering resistance. Criticism followed them. Opposition followed them. Yet, instead of collapsing under pressure, they used adversity as fuel. Dark intelligence recognizes that challenges are often disguised opportunities. A harsh critic may unintentionally reveal an area for improvement. A rival may push someone to develop skills they otherwise would have neglected. Seen from this perspective, conflict becomes less of a threat and more of a training ground. Adaptability is another essential component of strategic living. This connects directly to the law of the persona. Many people believe authenticity means behaving exactly the same way in every environment. In reality, effective individuals understand context. They remain true to their core values while adjusting their communication style to different situations. A mentor speaking to a child communicates differently than a CEO addressing executives, yet both expressions can remain genuine. Psychology rewards flexibility far more often than rigidity. The strongest tree in a storm is not always the most rigid one. It is often the one that knows how to bend. As a person develops adaptability and detachment, they become increasingly difficult to destabilize. Praise no longer intoxicates them. Criticism no longer controls them. Wins are appreciated, and losses become lessons. This creates a level of inner stability that many people spend their entire lives searching for. Yet even with all this growth, one final challenge remains. Human beings are experts at disguising intentions, including from themselves. To navigate the world wisely, a person must learn how to recognize truth beneath appearances, and perhaps even confront the hidden parts of their own nature. One of the most expensive mistakes a person can make is believing words without examining actions. Human beings are storytellers by nature. They make promises, express intentions, and describe themselves in flattering ways. Yet psychology teaches that behavior is often a far more reliable source of truth than language. This is the foundation of the law of necessary suspicion. It is not about becoming paranoid or distrusting everyone. It is about learning to observe reality carefully. A wise individual listens respectfully, but ultimately places greater weight on patterns of action than on declarations of character. Think about how often people encounter contradictions. Someone may talk endlessly about loyalty while disappearing when loyalty is required. Another may claim honesty while constantly avoiding accountability. Machiavelli understood that human nature is complex and often inconsistent. This is why Machiavellian psychology encourages observation over assumption. The strategic thinker pays attention to what repeatedly happens, not merely to what is repeatedly said. Over time, this habit protects them from manipulation, disappointment, and unnecessary vulnerability. Reality leaves clues for those patient enough to notice them. As awareness grows, another challenge begins to emerge. Most people spend years trying to appear good, respectable, and socially acceptable. In the process, they often suppress parts of themselves they consider undesirable. Anger, ambition, competitiveness, aggression, and the desire for power are pushed into the shadows. Yet these traits do not disappear. They simply operate beneath conscious awareness. Dark intelligence recognizes that denying these aspects of human nature rarely makes a person wiser. In many cases, it makes them easier to control because they fail to understand their own motivations. This is where the law of the shadow becomes transformative. Instead of pretending darker impulses do not exist, the strategic individual learns to acknowledge them consciously. They recognize their capacity for ambition without becoming consumed by greed. They understand their ability to be aggressive without becoming destructive. They accept their desire for influence without becoming obsessed with domination. Emotional detachment plays an important role here because awareness creates choice. What remains unconscious controls behavior. What becomes conscious can be directed with intention and discipline. A useful analogy is that of a powerful horse. If left completely wild, it may create chaos and destruction. If excessively restrained, its strength becomes useless. The true goal is mastery. Psychological power does not come from eliminating inner strength. It comes from learning how to guide it. The individual who understands both their light and dark qualities develops a level of self-control that many people mistake for confidence. In reality, it is something deeper. It is the result of knowing exactly what exists inside and choosing consciously how to use it. Perhaps this is the ultimate lesson hidden within both psychology and the teachings of Machiavelli. True power is not control over other people. It is control over oneself. It is the ability to remain calm when others panic, patient when others rush, observant when others react, and disciplined when others surrender to impulse. Such a person becomes resilient, adaptable, and remarkably difficult to manipulate. They no longer fear human nature because they understand it. They no longer fear power because they have learned how to carry it responsibly. Now the question is no longer whether these laws are real. The question is what you will do with them. Most people will hear these ideas, agree with them for a moment, and then return to the same habits that keep them stuck. They'll continue oversharing, reacting emotionally, seeking validation, and wondering why others seem to hold more influence over their lives. But a small minority will choose a different path. They will begin observing more carefully. They will practice strategic silence. They will develop emotional detachment. They will study psychology not just to understand others, but to understand themselves. The truth is that power has always belonged to those who can remain calm when others lose control, think clearly when others become emotional, and see patterns that others ignore. As Machiavelli understood, the greatest victories are often won long before anyone realizes a game is being played. And as dark intelligence teaches, awareness is the first step toward freedom. So take a moment and ask yourself honestly, where in your life are emotions making decisions for you? Who has influence over your thinking without you even noticing? What would change if you became more observant, more disciplined, and less dependent on the approval of others? And perhaps the most important question of all, are you truly controlling your life, or are invisible forces controlling you? Leave your answer in the comments below. I'd genuinely like to know which of these laws impacted you the most, and which one you plan to apply first. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue exploring Machiavellian psychology, psychological power, strategic silence, emotional detachment, and the deeper truths of human behavior, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate notifications so you never miss a new lesson. Remember, the world changes when you see it differently, and the moment you begin mastering yourself, you begin mastering far more than you ever imagined.